BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got a very special guest. We've got Forsan head football coach Jason Phillips, and Forsan's off to a great start for the second straight year.
Yeah, they had obviously a 10-win season last year. They're off to a 6-1 start this year, 2-0 in district, and just playing really well. And obviously, Coach Phillips has had a lot to do with that. He has built a program there at this point that they can withstand some heavy graduation losses and continue to put out a very competitive product. And I'm sure that's a point of pride out there, and it should be. This is become a very strong, perennially competitive program. And from the sounds of it, they've got a good young group coming up. So this little run they're on right now could last a little while. So it's gonna be fun to talk to Coach Phillips about this team in particular. They've got a lot of guys who are kind of either first-time varsity starters or first-time varsity players that are really contributing to what they're doing. So I'm excited to talk to him about, just what some of these guys are doing. This has been a really special start to the season for Forsan.
I'm interested in this conversation also. Forsan plays the kind of football that I really love. They're just a physical ground and pound type team offensively, and they just do their very best sell out to stop you from running it. It's trench war football. It's what I enjoy more than anything else. So looking forward to it.
And they kind of even do it in a unique style. It's really kind of unique to Forsan, some of the things that they do. Offense, very, very balanced. They've used two quarterbacks each of the last 3 years, maybe 4 years. They use a lot of running backs. They get a lot of kids involved in what they're doing, but it is a very workmanlike style. You look at the end of the night, the stat sheet, the total yards will never be, eye popping. But at the end of the night, you look and it's a very, very sometimes dominant style of play because they're so good defensively, so opportunistic defensively that they're just able to, be a ball control ground and pound team and have a whole lot of success that way. So, yeah, that's definitely your style of football, and it's going to be fun to talk to Coach Phillips about that as well. That's kind of a unique style to what they've done.
All right. And with that, before we take a look at what happened last week, and before we bring on Coach Phillips, we want to talk just briefly about the top games we're going to be looking at this week in the area. Seymour at Haskell will be our Big Country Preps game of the week. And that game is really quite important, Dan. We're looking at the winner of that more than likely taking the 3 seed. So those are two teams that are more than likely going to be playoff teams, but they're fighting for that 3 seed. The winner will likely take it.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a big game. Another big one that we consider a little bit, it's not necessarily at the top of a district, but important at the bottom of the district for that 4 seed. Hamilton at De Leon is going to be a big game for the Bearcats, where they're kind of at this point kind of in a must-win situation with the loss to San Saba. So that's a big game where it could create some real havoc at the bottom of that district if De Leon can win.
Yeah, we were looking at that as a possible Big Country Preps game of the week, and we nearly chose it. There was kind of a toss-up between the two. Okay, a couple other games that we've got. 2 of the teams that we cover, Brock and Stephenville, both have distant road games this week. Stephenville's all the way out at China Spring, but that's going to be a good ball game to keep an eye on, a great game to keep an eye on. Also, Brock at Paradise. This is a tough situation for Brock, coming off that emotional win over Whitesboro and then have to go on the road against a good Paradise team. And then Albany at Roscoe is another top ball game. Also, Forsan taking on Christoval at home this week is another one that we'll talk about when Coach Phillips comes on. But that's a big ball game as well.
And yeah, and one last big one that we have to talk about is Gymnet at Breckenridge, which became more important, I think, for Breckenridge with their loss, kind of surprising loss last week to Vernon. So there are several games this week that are going to have heavy implications on those district races and some interesting ones for sure.
All right, and with that, we're going to take a quick peek at what happened in last week's ball games. We'll start with locals. Dan, you had 3 interesting ball games to keep an eye on. Abilene at Lubbock Cooper, Amarillo Paladuro at Abilene Cooper, and Wiley in a big ball game at Wichita Falls Rider, which will go down as a classic.
Yeah, all 3 of those were interesting for different reasons. Abilene High fell to Lubbock Cooper in a really old school defensive slugfest. They ended up losing 11-8 in a game where they held Lubbock Cooper under 140 total yards to 5 total first downs. They actually led that one 8-3 at halftime, and unfortunately gave up one big play that kind of sealed their fate because they ended up turning the ball over in their last 2 possessions. But a really good performance, really good showing, because Lubbock Cooper is a very good football team, as many of our teams have already learned. Wiley, Stephenville, etc. So a good quality showing for Abilene High, but that will probably put them now in a position where they're fighting for third as opposed to second in district, which has big implications at that level because that likely means a trip to El Paso for the first round of the playoffs. But and going down the list, you mentioned Cooper. They bounced back from their loss to Wichita Falls Rider with a really good, strong, lopsided win over Paladuro. That was a really nice bounce back for them. And then, as you mentioned, with Wiley and Rider, just an all-time classic. Wiley overcomes a 17-point halftime deficit to beat Rider 39-38 in a game that really could have. I mean, they at one point they had an opportunity to tie the game at 13, aren't able to do that, and they see a game that could have been tied at halftime end up in a 3-score deficit, and they're still able to overcome that and win in the final minute. Just a huge win for Wiley that really puts them now on track to compete for a district championship. So a big, interesting week for the locals and some really good, interesting area games as well.
All right, our Big Country Preps game of the week took place out in Brock. Dan, you were on hand for that one. Another just great ball game. Came down to the last second, came down to the last play, and the last yard.
This game was literally a game of inches. Brock won 39-35 in a game where they needed 2 touchdowns in the final 4 minutes to overcome an 8-point deficit and to win it. And even with those 2 touchdowns, they still had to make a stop at the goal line on the final play of the game to secure the win. Just a great game, and it was really an interesting game because Brock had a 2-score lead in the first half and really looked to be kind of asserting themselves and pulling away, but this Whitesboro team would not go away. This was just a 12-round heavyweight fight, both teams throwing haymaker after haymaker, and one where you really felt bad for whoever ended up losing that game because there's a lot of heart and a lot of talent shown on that football field.
All right, another big ball game that we had in our coverage area, Comanche at Jacksboro. Dan, this is an important win for Comanche, 53-33, and it really wasn't that close. The Indians were up 36-8 or 36-11 rather at the break, and kind of coasted to the finish line after that. Big ball game for Sawyer Wilkerson, the sensational sophomore running back of Comanche, rushing for 269 yards on 30 carries and scored 4 times. This guy is he's one of the best young athletes that I've seen in the area this year, and maybe for a couple of years.
Yeah, he's had a really strong sophomore season. I think the thing that makes them so dangerous too is, in addition to what he brings to the running game, they've got a very efficient passing game with Layden Welch at quarterback, and Miguel Martinez is having a really nice receiving season. They're becoming a very dangerous offense in a very short period of time. It's pretty cool to see what Coach Escobar's done there.
Yeah, I was up in Stanford for another ball game that we expected to be, competitive. It really wasn't. Cisco handled Stanford, handing them their first loss of the year, 47-14, and really just a dominating ball game for the Lobos that were up 33-8 at the break, and again just kind of coasted to the finish line. 297 yards rushing for Cisco against what had been a very good Stanford defense. Hunter Long again with another big night for Cisco, 145 yards rushing, threw for 243, and threw some really deep balls that night. Long was showing exceptional arm strength. This is a Cisco team that I've been watching Cisco since 2006. This is 16 years worth of it. I have never seen a Cisco football team with the deep threats that they have right now. Normally, if they have what we call an efficient passing game for Cisco, it's been short, intermediate stuff. They've got guys that can get behind your defense speed wise now, and they've got a delivery system in Long who can throw it over the top of you, and they can score from anywhere on the field, through the air or on the ground. This is a very dangerous offensive football team now at Cisco, and they're going to be worrisome for Holly when they finally meet up. This is going to be a really great matchup when it occurs in week 11.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I've been here in the Big Country since 07, and I think this is the best passing game that Cisco's had in the time that I've been covering them as well. They had a really good, efficient passing game the year they won the state title, but I think this one's more explosive, which could make them dangerous on that level once we get to the playoffs. It's going to be fun to see how far this team can go, and I think that starts with that regular season capping game against Holly, which is just going to be a monstrous matchup there.
All right, before we bring on Coach Jason Phillips of Forsan, we want to thank some of our sponsors. Beginning with For the Love of the Game broadcasting on our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of KLAX 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, KATX 97.7 FM out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give him a shout. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And with that, Dan, it is just about time to bring on the man. Forsan head football coach Jason Phillips is about to join us. You got to like what you see with Forsan. I expected them to be good, but they're better than I expected. I thought they got hit hard by graduation with some of the skill personnel losses that they had suffered, and they've just kept it going. They're off to a 6-1 start, playing their style of football still, and it's indicative to me. It's indicative of that they're starting to build that continuity to get that foundation built, keep it in place, and that's what you see when you keep a coach in place for a long time.
And I think that's a big part of it is that Coach Phillips has been there a long time. These guys know what to expect from him and vice versa. And you're reaping the rewards for that. They're starting to build some continuity, some success at the junior varsity and sub varsity levels. And that's how you build a program. So it's been really cool to watch that happen. And honestly, it's been really cool getting to know Coach Phillips since we started covering Forsan and covering that program. So I've really enjoyed getting to talk with him, and I'm excited about this opportunity to do so as well. And it looks like he is just about ready to join us. So let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now, Forsan head football coach Jason Phillips. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Coach, you're off to a great start, 6-1, surprising to some, not surprising to others. Tell us about what you think the keys are thus far, please.
I think number one, we're getting to see our kids finally get to produce. A lot of these kids were on a really good team as backups last year and didn't get to see the field a whole lot, and they're finally getting their time to shine. And then another good portion of our kids were on a really good JV team that we had last year. So it's been fun to watch these kids mesh. We've got some talented kids. Some talented returners, especially those three big guys up front. They're a big part of what we do, but it's just been fun to see that these kids develop and come together and play as a really good football team.
And you kind of touched on this. You obviously had that nucleus of seniors last year that kind of carried you through the program, got y'all to the heights y'all reached last year, and then left a lot of kind of vacancies at the skill positions in particular. So a lot of young guys have kind of stepped in there and had a lot of success. How much fun has it been to watch those guys kind of seize their opportunities?
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. We knew going in that we had a chance of being pretty good because we knew we had some talent there, but that talent was unproven on Friday nights. It was proven, a lot of them in practice against those guys that graduated, and a lot of it was proven on Thursday night. So there were still question marks. We had to see what our guys were going to look like on Fridays, and so far they have not disappointed. It's been real special to see these guys mature and develop, and especially a lot of our seniors this year have really not had a chance to play a whole lot of reps on Friday nights, and it's been really fun watching those guys come into their own.
Coach, you touched on this, but tell us a little bit more about the performance up front that you're seeing on your offensive line. With your style up front it's just absolutely vital. And right now, strength and experience on both fronts is really helping you.
Yeah, we've got the three big returners, Nolan Park, Ketcher Dawson, and Weston Thomas. They all started offensively for us last year, and all three of them played a lot of defensive reps as well, and they're doing the same thing. And we've been able to throw some younger, more inexperienced guys in with those three, and they've just taken off. And like you said, for us to be successful in the way we play offense and defense, we got to be physical up front. And those three seniors are they're game changers for us. They really are. They play the game the way we like it to be played. They're physical, they're aggressive, and they have a little bit of a bad attitude, and it's fun to watch. You don't get to see that a whole lot anymore. I mean, a lot of smash mouth type football. So they take it to heart. You hear them talk all the time. We're a smash mouth football team, and they're referring to themselves. So it's been fun. They're a blessing to have for sure.
And Coach, one of the neat things that I've just kind of noticed in following y'all's program the last several years, there's several hallmarks to kind of what y'all do offensively. You mentioned that physical smash mouth style. Y'all are really balanced. A lot of different guys touch the football. Y'all managed to get a lot of guys involved in it. And really the last couple of years, y'all have kind of used that multi-quarterback system where you've kind of used different guys with different strengths. Just, I guess, just kind of how have y'all developed kind of what y'all do offensively? Because it is kind of very much a workman-like style that at the end of the day gets results.
It is, like Kevin Flagora, he was our third running back last year. And for a lot of teams, he probably would have been somebody who's number one, at least number two. And he's our number one running back this year. But like you said, we like to roll those guys because on the flip side, a lot of those guys play defense too. And we count on them defensively. So we roll our running backs and our quarterbacks. We have 6 guys right now that have carried the ball over 20 times, and we have 7 guys that have scored rushing touchdowns. And, that's probably a little bit out of our norm, but we do like to spread it around. A lot of teams like to have that one true bell cow running back. We would prefer to have 2 or 3, and we're lucky enough to have it again this year.
And lost in all this talk about the offense is the job that defense has done for you this year. Just extremely opportunistic, has put a lot of points on the scoreboard themselves. Just how much fun has it been to watch those guys do what they've done?
Our defense has been amazing from day one. They even back to the Howard County Bowl against Coahoma, our defense stepped up and turned that football game around for us with some big turnovers in key situations. I'm not off the top of my head, but we're probably plus 15, 16, somewhere in the turnover category. And I think we have 5 defensive touchdowns with 2 more called back. We've actually scored 7 defensive touchdowns this year. And it's just the mindset of the kids. We rep and practice, especially early in August. We want to force turnovers and we want to score off those turnovers. And these guys have just taken it to a new level for us. It's been extremely fun to watch. Coach Park does a great job getting those guys ready week in and week out. And, they've bought into the way we play, fly to the football, force turnovers, and make something happen. And it's been amazing. I think there was 3 games there in a row that our defense scored a touchdown before our offense did. So as a play caller, that makes calling plays a lot easier when your defense is scoring touchdowns for you.
Coach, you lost some talent to graduation in the spring. And here you are at 6-1. It's got to be nice to get the program to a point of where you can take a hit, in graduation and start seeing some consistency. Tell us about that.
It is, and I think it's just the buy-in from your sub-varsities. I think our sub-varsity coaches do a great job of instilling our philosophy, even down to the 7th grade, what we want to do offensively, what we want to do defensively. And it helps that we've got really coachable kids. Our kids are coachable, and our kids aren't selfish. A lot of times they know, I may not get to see the field much this year, but down the road it's going to be my time. And it's just fun to watch those guys wait till it's their turn and really shine. And this year has really been special. And it's just been a fun thing to watch. But I think that our kids are the key. Very coachable kids out here, very hard-nosed kids, and they fit right into the style that we try to play.
And shifting gears just a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about your district. We talked about that before the season, about the new West Texas district. Looked very competitive before the season, and I think it's played out that way. It's a district where you really have to show up and play week in and week out. Just what have your thoughts been on just as you're getting into the district race now? What have your thoughts been on this league?
I think it's been a really good district top to bottom. I think it's going to continue to be. We've played a lot of these teams in the past, but we haven't played them in district in a while, especially like Reagan County dropping down from 3A to 2A. We play those guys every year because it's a good test for us. Fairly close game for us, and just get into a district with them and getting back in a district with Ozona and Cristoval and Anthony, even though that's a long way. We've been in their district before. We hadn't played Sonora in probably 10, 12 years. So that they're really the one X card. The one thing about it, I guess the negative was we haven't known a whole lot about any of those schools except for Reagan County. You know, a lot of them were 3A last year, so we didn't see. Cristobal was 2A Division II. They've moved up, so we haven't really known, you know, what their style is. So it's been fun, kind of interesting to watch what's going on film with those guys. You know, for years we've been in there with Holly and Anson and Stanford, and we knew what to expect with those guys. So it's been a different challenge for us getting to watch these new teams and see what their style is and see how we need to adjust and make plays and try to win a football game.
All right, Coach, tell us about the trip out to Anthony and the challenges that brings. I mean, you're driving almost 400 miles one way for that. So tell us about the routine that you went through that week and all the challenges that were involved.
Well, we actually dusted our itinerary off of I think it was 2015 or 16, the last time we traveled to Anthony, and we found that that script, that itinerary, and we tweaked it a little bit, you know, from last time, and we used it. It is a challenge. It is an interesting Friday for sure. Well, actually, it's an interesting Friday and Saturday because it takes 2 days to make the round trip. But our guys did a great job. On the way out there, we try to space it out on the way out there. We try to stop every hour and a half or so, let the kids you know, get off, get a snack, basically stretch the legs, and then we stop in Van Horn. Van Horn was gracious enough to let us use their field, and basically we had an extended walkthrough. We went through a lot of special teams and went through, you know, did some offensive and defensive stuff just in shorts and t-shirts, just to get off the bus for a while. So we were in Van Horn about an hour, and then we went on, and I mean, it's a different atmosphere, and you get out there and you're in a different time zone, which is a challenge, especially for the parents. So we start at 6:30 or 7:30, and trying to keep everybody on the same page. And so going out there is really a lot of fun. We enjoy the trip out there. It's the trip home that's not so much fun when you're rolling back into Forsan about 4:30 in the morning.
Let me throw one more additional question in about this. How practical or impractical is the idea of having just a couple of neutral site games between you and them? And I mean, Ozona's in the same boat. They've got to go out there also. Sonora. These are not short trips for anybody. How practical is that idea to meet in a Pecos or meet in a Van Horn halfway somewhere out there?
Well, we've thought about that, and really, Anthony brought up a good point that it'd be a neutral site for us, or a neutral site for Reagan County, or a neutral site for Ozona. But then Anthony's having to play 4 neutral site games, and you know, it's not real fair for them. You know, because you know, we have to go out there once in 2 years. They're making 4 long trips in 2 years, so they're really the ones at a disadvantage. It really is bad for us, but I feel sorry for those guys having to do this 2-3 times a year and then flip it around and do it again in basketball season. So it would be great for us. I would be all for a neutral site with them, but I think it would be really tough for them to have to play that many neutral site games and not ever get to have a home game.
And Coach, turn back to kind of this season and what y'all been able to accomplish. One of the things I kind of wondered is, it seemed like that Kermit loss, which I'm sure no one ever wants to lose a game, but it seemed like that was kind of a well-timed deal to where it kind of got the team refocused right before district. Did you find that to be the case?
I did. We actually talked about that about 2 minutes after the game on that Friday. Obviously, we didn't play the way we were capable. Kermit played extremely well. Had an extremely effective game plan against us. We left a lot of points on the board. They were able to stymie us on 4th down a couple times, and you know, when usually we pick the 4th downs up, we weren't able to against them. They played lights out, and we weren't at our best. And we used that right after the game. We started talking about that. How obviously we want to go undefeated. We want to go 10-0 in the regular season. But if we can take that loss, especially the timing of where that loss occurred, you know, we can use that as motivation, as way to refocus, and our guys have bought into that. Our practices have been much sharper. Not saying they weren't bad before, but they've been better since then. And I think it kind of let us regroup and refocus a little bit and get headed in not necessarily a right direction, but a better direction than maybe where we were going.
Coach, talk a little bit about this Cristobal game. This is a big game for both teams. Talk about the importance of this matchup and the challenges that this team brings you.
I think this is, this game's got a chance for the district champion to come out of it. I know it's early and we still got a lot of district games left to play, but I think whoever wins this game gets a leg up in the district race. Cristoval's a good football team. They're really similar to us in a lot of areas. They've got some big physical kids up front, some big physical backs. They're more of a smash mouth football team. They do throw it a little bit, kind of like we do, but they throw it more to set a different run up, kind of like we do. So it's going to be a challenge. They're physical on both sides of the ball. They got some good size. Luckily, we played some big physical teams in pre-district that got us ready for this, hopefully. But it's going to be a challenge for us. I'm glad this is one that we get at home. Our home crowd's always amazing, and luckily we get this one at home this year. So, but it's going to be a tough test. I'm excited for Friday. We had a really good day of practice Monday, so hopefully that we can continue and build on these first two wins.
Coach, thank you for your time. We appreciate you joining us. We'll be keeping a close eye on the Forsan Buffaloes the rest of the way, and good luck Friday night.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for all y'all do.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you. And that was Forsan head football coach Jason Phillips. And this is a big game that they've got with Cristobal. In my opinion, if they win this ball game, they've got an excellent shot at winning the whole thing. That's going to depend on Sonora. If they defeat Cristobal, we'll have to take a look at what happens with Sonora. If Sonora wins out until they play Forsan in the season finale, then that could change things. We'll see. And that game's at Sonora, by the way, for the season finale for Forsan. That'll be interesting as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a big game because I think it kind of sets the race. I mean, it kind of tells who has the leg up because that last game against Sonora will be a big one. Obviously, they're going on the road to play that one. But if Forsan can take care of Cristobal this week, they'll be going into that one with a lot of momentum because it's likely they'll have a good little winning streak heading into that one. But this is a very competitive.
Well, you know what? I'm going to interrupt you. And one thing to keep in mind, and I did not bring this up, is the fact that Sonora has one loss. Sonora has one loss, and they close with Cristobal and Forsan. So they're going to have to beat Cristobal to set that up if Forsan defeats Cristobal.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point because they did lose. They lost to Reagan County last week, a team that Forsan really handled in their district opener. So that does put Sonora in a more desperate situation where they've now got to beat Cristobal and Forsan to get back in the district title situation. But I just think this Sonora team it's a very quality team. I think there's a very good likelihood it's going to be a very competitive game, regardless of the circumstances around it there at the end of the season. But it could be one that could have district title implications on it. But that's the fun thing about this district is there's a very competitive, a lot of parity, and it just makes for fun games week in and week out.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where you knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where you knock that price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have photo downloads available for $7 a piece, as well as some keepsakes and prints. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll recognize pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these games we're at. It's something we enjoy doing and something we are very proud of here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.